Welcome to a late night version of Pissdrinker. A little bit late. And I'm drinking something, I guess sort of a late night beer. Pretty Things East Kent Saison. A beer for the people. From the description, it's meant to be for the English hop pickers, or be like the beer the English hop pickers would have picked as seasonal workers going through there 100 years ago. The interesting thing is that it's not a normal French or Belgian Saison yeast. They say they use a British ale yeast, so it's in the same vein, I guess, as a Saison. Something that's refreshing for the workers to get sustenance to, but also not get drunk on. And this also has this weird Saint Arnold of Soissons series of surprising Saisons, first edition. So I think it's might be a part of a bunch of abnormal Saisons, because the brewers from Pretty Things are just husband and wife. They make all the beers themselves, Dan and Martha Paquette. And they always do really interesting spins on traditional styles and not just the normal American way. Even though their most popular beer, Jack Doors, is just like a American hop Saison, but not anything like a over-the-top Belgian IPA thing. And it's always a take that I never quite know exactly what's going to happen when I have a new Pretty Things beer, and most of the time it's really very good. So, this one is pretty fresh, less than a month old, I believe. Ooh, that was pretty loud. English hops too in this. Only white bread Goldings, which is just a different variety of the classic Goldings hops. And they said just pale malt, so kind of a single hop, single malt, single yeast beer, apparently, which makes even more sense. Very clear, almost looks like a Pilsner, and smells slightly like a Pilsner, but there's a little more of a woody orange thing going on because of the British hops. The head is sticking around really nicely. Makes it seem like it's a rather hoppy beer. And I've had some other beers from Pretty Things that were mostly European hops, but they use them extremely strongly, and I get them fresh enough that it's almost like nothing that you've actually gotten from England. It's like something you could actually get from England when it would be super fresh. Yeah. This reminds me almost of Timothy Taylor Landlord Pale Ale, but this is more intense. This is like an English IPA. That's kind of how I would classify this. Very strong, yeah, wicker chair, dry, orange, black tea, Earl Grey, maybe a little kind of funky flower, those flowers that almost might smell bad from a long ways away, but then you get used to it and you're like, oh, that's nice. Ooh, pretty darn bitter. I guess it relates to the Belgian and French Saisons in that it uses similar kind of hops. I think those Saisons usually use British hops a lot of the time, and use them pungently to match up the yeast flavor, but here the yeast flavor is much more subtle. Maybe there's just a touch of of diacetyl. It makes it just a little bit more biscuity, but it's not a sweet or heavy biscuity quality. It's really refreshing and light bodied. Toasty, buttery, but like nothing that hints at caramel at all. Not even really toffee. It's too dry and hoppy. This is the one that really wakens your whole face and your throat. It actually reminds me of a Saison I had actually from Brasserie de la Seine, which is a Belgian brewer who makes cleaner, drier, more bitter, hoppy Belgian pale ales styles. And theirs was very highly bottle conditioned and had very little Belgian yeast quality to it, let the hops shine. And I bet they used a Goldings hops or something like that. Like this beer. And it makes it just kind of seem more like a peppery, yeasty quality. But it may be mainly from the hops. Like, that's what's great about Pretty Things, is that you get to try a beer that's just using an English ale yeast, but trying to brew it in a Saison style. Maybe they fermented it differently than normal English pale ales and such. And then using only a white bread Goldings hops, which I'm sure I've had before, but never by itself. It's almost like a tangy, like clearly it smells fermented. It's not so clean and purely hoppy. Like there's the English ale yeast is definitely a little more expressive than Americans. I can see how it bridges a little bit of a gap between the Belgians, but it's not quite into this fruit, clove, spice, banana, in-your-face phenols. Like, it doesn't make it to clove, it's just like really fresh pepper. And maybe almost like sort of lavender spice thing happening, which probably coming from the hops too. But so perfectly golden and clear. With some Pilsner elements, I guess, grassy. If you think about it, you could probably give it to someone and say it's like an Imperial Pilsner or something, like a really intense Pilsner, and they might believe you. It's not too far off from Pretty Things American Darling, which is their on-lawnmower American lager, like their real full-flavored, in-your-face, but still simple American lager they have during the summers. I keep going back for more, but I can't drink it super fast. Maybe I'll get used to it in a bit. Definitely a lemon. That's something that comes back constantly. And I don't know if I mentioned it's 5.5%. 5.6%. Saison inspired by English hop pickers of the early 1900s, so here's to the people who helped first pick the white bread Goldings hops and spread these all over the world, and they're still around, even though now it's all where I'm from, the American hops. Their descendants are taken over. And to them I want to give a beer like this like a really high rating, like 8.5, but it's not even about ratings, this thing. That's why it's maybe a very respectful 7.75.